Disciples of Jesus Christ. Everyone is a disciple. The real question is, who or what are you a disciple of? Our Lenten scripture comes from Mark 1, verse 17, the Amplified Version. And Jesus said to them, "Follow me as my disciples, accepting me as your master and teacher, and walking the same path of life that I walk, and I will make you fishers of men." Some 2,000 years ago, Jesus issued this invitation, and since that time, millions have answered yes to his invitation. Following Jesus, what does it look like to follow Jesus? What does that look like in our world today when we are so busy, overscheduled, full of anxiety, running on fumes, competing with all kinds of other worldviews, and digitally distracted? How do we put into practice being a disciple? I would like to discuss how we may, as disciples, practice the ways of Jesus and develop a lifelong Lenten plan. I believe many of us think that disciple is a verb, meaning to do, to perform, to take on activities. Those of us who have accepted the invitation, we are called to do some basic actions such as attend church, fellowship with other believers, and become part of the body through service. But that's not all there is to discipleship. Merely doing is easy, but to become a disciple requires far more intentionality. Let's think of ourselves as apprenticing under Jesus. We are his apprentices, and as any good apprentice, we are mirroring ourselves after the one who is the teacher. I would like to offer 3 practices to consider as we apprentice under Jesus, which can be also used to establish our lifelong Lenten plan. Let's get started. The first is to be with Jesus. To be with Jesus, like the 12 disciples we read about and have viewed in our Bible study series, The Chosen, they were called to be with him. The disciples spent time with him. They talked to him daily, and they listened to him. They were in relationship with him. What are some practical ways that we can do this in our current times? Well, let's use the tithe as an example. Let's work our way to spending 10% of our day with him. That may be in prayer, reading, meditation, listening to a sermon, or simply talking to God. As you go about your day, talk to God while you're commuting or doing your chores, exercising, playing golf, or working in whatever capacity you're called. Every moment spent in conscious awareness and communication with God counts. Now, this takes lots of practice to turn your heart and mind to God throughout the day with all that we have going on. You will have to direct and redirect your mind to him constantly throughout the day. Let us purpose to develop a familiar friendship with Jesus. Jesus himself said in John 15:15, "I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know what his master is doing, but I call you friends, because I have made known to you everything I heard from my Father." Secondly, let's become like Jesus, deeply relational. This is important and truly transformational. Our goal is to be like Jesus, talk like Jesus, live like Jesus, and love like Jesus. This is a process. None of us become like Jesus in a flash from heaven, but through a long process. We are slowly and incrementally being transformed from the inside out. This is a process by which our spirit or our inner woman or man is formed to be like Jesus himself. We can all remember when we first accepted Christ into our hearts and decided to join this movement called Christianity. Joining was easy. Becoming is a lot harder. It takes practice, practice, and more practice to turn our hearts and minds to God throughout our day. Imagine what Jesus would look like expressed through your unique personality, gender, ethnicity, stage of life, and culture. Imagine yourself becoming more loving, joyful, peaceful, patient, and kind. Make that part of your lifelong Lenten plan to become more loving, more joyful, more peaceful, more patient, and more kind. I challenge you to develop a lifelong Lenten plan to become more like Jesus. Thirdly and final is do as Jesus did. Remember Jesus' invitation. Come, follow me, and I will send you out to fish for people. The translation is, come with me, and I will train you to do what I do. This sounds a bit cheesy, but in the first century, fishers of people was an idiom for a great rabbi, because they had the ability to capture a person's heart and mind with their teachings. The goal of doing as Jesus did isn't just to know all about Jesus, which is information, but to be able to do the kinds of things he did: preach, teach, serve, heal, prophesy, and deliverance. Our lifelong Lenten plan is not just to learn about Jesus, but to be transformed into a likeness of Jesus. I heard one minister suggest 20-minute increments. For the next 20 minutes, do as Jesus did. It's not impossible, but as you are with Jesus and become like him, you will find yourself saying and doing the kinds of things he said and did. Give yourself some grace as you embark on this journey of being with Jesus, becoming like Jesus, and doing as Jesus did. Let's practice the way of Jesus, which is essentially apprenticing under him, which involves being with him, becoming like him, and doing as he did, both during the rest of this Lenten season and forever. And let's be transformed from the inside out. For more information, please go to practicingtheway.org for a host of resources to help you on your journey.